Hello, welcome everyone to Tradition Kitchens. I need to let them in from the waiting room. Hold on, where did everyone go? 1 second. Here we go. Okay, sorry about that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tradition Kitchens. We're so happy to have you for our lentil soup with Lily. Some great alliteration happening today. I'm Julia, co-founder of Tradition Kitchens. So excited to have 37 of you here. We're expecting over 100 today. We have people from all over the world joining us in our classes. And so we'd like to invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us your name and where you're calling in from. I see a few familiar faces, which is always wonderful to have you here. And we have a tradition at Tradition Kitchens where we invite people to introduce themselves with something called the kitchen cam, which means that we spotlight you and we invite you to say hello to everybody. So get ready for the kitchen cam to hit you at any moment. Turn on your video. We love seeing folks from around the world. And I'm gonna do a few shout outs to get us started. So aloha Shri, hi, so good to see you from Hawaii. Jennifer from
Aloha,
DC.
Julia.
Hi Shri, come on video soon so we can see you.
Okay, later on.
Sri is one of our former teachers. She taught us amazing Indonesian food, which was so incredible. So we'll put that link. You can watch it on our cooking library. So Kristen, you have a very special +1 with you, Kristen Lombardo. I'm going to put you both on the kitchen cam. Could you unmute? And oh no, do we have someone shy now? Okay. I would love. Hello.
It's my special Chloe girl. Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
Aunt Lily.
We're so excited to see Aunt Lily cook tonight.
I'm glad you came.
Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. Highlight of the evening. I have a knack for finding family members. I didn't know you were related, so I'm so happy.
We actually are not.
Oh,
we are very, very old and dear friends. So we are like family.
Honorary family. That's how I feel with Lily too. And I'm sure the rest of you will feel that way after class. So thank you for joining us. So happy to have you. I'm going to head over to Marcy, who is ready in her kitchen. So great to see you again. You want to unmute and say hello?
Hi, it's been a while. Nice to see everybody. I'm looking forward to tonight. And just so you know, the other night I made the Rust cookies again, and they were delicious. It was a great recipe. So
that is amazing. Marcy, you're a rock star. I love it. I love it. And I think this is the first time I'm seeing your incredible refrigerator. Would you tell us about these magnets behind you if you don't mind?
No, not at all. Whenever I travel all over the world, I would collect a magnet from that country. And so I'm only allowed to put magnets from places that I've been.
Wow, that is so cool. Well, I hope you can begin filling up your fridge more. It's pretty full already.
Okay, I have the whole bottom part I could add to.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Well, thank you for letting me snoop in your kitchen. I love it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so great to see you. So welcome. We have about 45 folks on the line. Welcome to Tradition Kitchens. I'm Julia, and I'm so excited to be here tonight with Lily, who's one of my old friends, and she will be teaching a recipe that's really special to her from her tradition. So I'm just taking a look around our kitchen cam and want to welcome Gail. If you want to say hello and tell us where you're calling in from, we'd love to say hello to you.
Hi, I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I said in the comments, I will become the mother-in-law of a beautiful Persian girl, and I'm trying to learn some new cooking techniques. And she's in Washington, D.C., so we'll see how it goes.
That is amazing. Lily, no pressure, but you're going to teach a future mother-in-law some great Persian cuisine.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. I will share with you a book that I have behind me that might be more helpful than I am tonight. But I will do my best to share with you our recipe.
It's gonna be wonderful. I feel like Lily is the one who introduced me to Persian food in college. It wasn't something that I was as familiar with, but now have like truly so I want to talk hellos. I'm just going to spotlight former teacher Elaine Marlin, who taught us to make some amazing pie. It's great to see you. Key lime pie. You want to say hi?
Hi, looking forward to that. I love Persian food. Yeah,
Amazing.
great.
It's so good to see you
Thank you.
again.
Yeah,
Thank you for
Julia.
being here.
Thank you.
So we love our community at Tradition Kitchens. It's really about people coming together, pretending like you're a neighbor in real life and hanging out in someone's kitchen. You might be cooking along. You might be just watching and learning for the future. We welcome everybody. So I want to ask you all to turn on your videos because it makes us feel like we're in a community together. And we'd like to take a selfie, a Zoom selfie together so that we can capture this special moment. So imagine I'm Ellen DeGeneres at the Oscars and want to just see all of you wonderful people. So Barbara, yay, Ben and Dina, I thought that was you. Great to see you again. Christine, Lisa, Julie, Kathy, Parul, and Gita. Come on video for just a moment at least so that we can capture you all. Thanks, Deborah. Appreciate you while you're even en route outside. Thank you, thank you. Shri, if you want to join us on video. So I'm looking at everyone on gallery view, which is super fun because it's like the Brady Bunch where I see faces popping up and videos turning on. So it's always really good to see everyone. Looks like we have about half of you on video, so I won't be too selective tonight, but I'm going to count us down. Shri, stay put. 3, 2, 1. Amazing. Let me take one more in case anybody closed their eyes so I can get you all. 3, 2, 1. Fantastic. Thank you. This is like the social media guru in me who loves to do this. So I appreciate it. If you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself in the comments, please, please let us know who you are and where you're calling in from and any funny stories like Ting just shared in the chat about a webcam accidentally put in an oven. I hope that webcam didn't melt and your oven is doing okay. If you want to unmute and tell us a story, that sounds very entertaining. So with that, welcome if you've been here before or if you've been here never. We're so glad to have you. We're all about learning from each other and our traditions. And I'm Julia. My mom and I started this about 2.5 years ago, and I believe this is class 87 or 88 for us. Just wrote a piece about reflecting back on all the amazing memories we've had together. So I'll put that in the chat for you throughout the class, as well as other helpful links. I'm going to turn it over to Lily, our incredible teacher. But before I do that, I just want to remind everybody of our community standards, which are that we value each other as individuals and we treat one another with kindness and respect. So if you feel like you're a little behind or you have a question, please just raise your hand or put it in the chat. We will do our best to get to everyone, but just know we want to keep the program going so that we don't take up too much of your time if you're calling in the morning, the evening, the afternoon, wherever you are located. With that, I want to introduce you to Lily, who is an amazing individual based in New York City. We've known each other for a really long time. I've had her on my wish list to teach a class forever because of her Persian culture and identity. Lily is also an amazing, successful CPA, did I get that right? And so she'll tell us a little bit about her incredible career, but one thing I just really want to thank Lily for all that she's done. She works at Pfizer and she is still on the DREAM vaccine team working with the CEO. And so just thank you to Lily and your incredible efforts to keep people safe in the world of COVID that we're in. So Lily, I'm going to turn the kitchen over to you, and we appreciate you so very much for sharing your evening with us.
Thank you, Julia. I'm so honored to be here today. Thank you so much. I know you've done amazing things and had amazing people on. So just a quick note about myself. My amazing mother is on without her video, of course, but she helped me to prepare for today. I've had this dish today that I'm going to make with you probably a couple hundred times in my life. It's a very simple but flavorful lentil soup that can be altered to any flavor palette. So you can add things, you could adjust spices. So I really want to just say that it's a great dish. I know my father will even eat it in the summertime, which always cracked up me and my brothers because we'd be sweating and he's offering us soup to have, but it really can go with anything. So I will certainly take any questions, but I will try to talk through some of the adjustments that people might want to make depending on their preferences as well. As Julia mentioned, we've been friends for a while. I went to Cornell with her and really explored some of my Persian roots there, having some cultural events. I am not a cook by training, so I really hope that that doesn't turn some people off, but I will let you know what I do know and what I don't know, but I will also show you that I pre-chopped everything because it would have taken us 3 times as long tonight if I had tried to do that on the video with everyone watching. So with that being said, Julia, is it all right if we get going? Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, awesome. So for starters, the first thing we're going to do is saute onions today. The 1 medium onion, we're going to chop it and we're going to saute that in some vegetable oil, probably enough oil to coat the bottom of the pot. It is adequate to do. I will say this, I think a lot of the dishes I grew up with started with sauteing onions. A lot of the stews, a lot of the meatballs, it was a flavor and a smell that I remember in our home growing up. And I was always asked to close the bedroom doors upstairs so that the smell wouldn't, infuse everything. But that is going to be the first thing that we're going to do tonight. So I will heat up the oil.
And Lily, quick question for you. Do you have a preference on the type of bouillon, beef or chicken or vegetable even?
So this is going to be one of those preference things. I know that I will say this. One of the things I love about this dish is it's innately vegan. So depending on your preference, if that is a thing for you, you can use vegetable, you can use non-chicken or anything else like that. I am going to use a consommé today that is also vegan, just for some cultural roots. I grew up Jewish, so we didn't mix meat and dairy, so we kept things separate. But no, the answer is use whatever works for you. You can even use broth, which I could talk through later, because we are going to dissolve the bouillon or the consommé into hot water. So that equivalent liquid could be broth instead, if that's what you prefer. But no, the short answer is no. And I know that might create a little bit of, I know some people want like an authentic recipe that has a very precise list of ingredients, but what I want to share is if you ask 100 Persian families what their recipe is for the soup, you will get 100 different answers. So that in itself, I think, is the authenticity of this, is that there is no one way to make it. So that's a long answer to your question, Julia, but I hope that helps give some peace of mind to whomever is asking. So I'm going to throw my chopped onions in. I know some of you are cooking along, so I'm hoping that the pace works for you.
And how about oil? Is that another 100 Persian opinions? Do you prefer olive oil or safflower? Any oil preference?
So I grew up in a home that did not use olive oil to cook, and I believe, and I think there's cooks on the line today that can speak to this better than I could. I believe it's because of the temperature that it cooks at. So I think growing up we used more like whether it was corn really initially, but then it turned into canola oil. I'm using a grapeseed oil today. But I think that it really comes, again, down to preference, but it was not olive oil for us growing up, incidentally. We used olive oil for salads and other things like that, but not for the base of a dish. So I'm going to saute the onions until they turn yellow, so it might be a few minutes until then. while this is happening, I mean, just to get ahead of ourselves a little bit, at some point the scallions will need to be chopped, washed and chopped as well. So just to share some of the prep that might go on tonight. Something that we do in our family as well, or I know my grandmother has done this, and even after children moved out, she still did this. She would make big batches of dishes like this. So I've really cooked for myself or for plus one the last few years, but I find that a lot of recipes are, you know, for 8 to 10, or this is gonna be for far more than just 2 people. So we freeze a lot of food, and quite honestly, I would say reheated food in the Persian family tastes better than the first time you made it. So if you find that this recipe is, you know, too much for the number of people you want to serve, certainly do not feel shy about, you know, about freezing it or using it again later.
Hey, Lily, I think we're having some feedback maybe from the stove is my guess, which would be wild. So I'm trying to think, is there a way to maybe move your computer a little bit further away so that when you go stir, it might not catch that audio?
I'm gonna try. Bear with me.
Yeah, no, thanks everyone. Sorry about this, but we will get it figured out. It just means the soup is excited to participate in the class this evening too.
May I ask a question?
Please.
Instead of a bouillon cube, could I use vegetable broth? And if so, how much broth should I use?
So I don't know if my audio is better right now. I'm hoping it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll try to speak more into the laptop. So we're gonna dissolve. So I would say 2 cups. The answer is 2 cups of the 2 cups of that, because we would dissolve the bouillon into 2 cups of hot water. So the equivalent liquid would be 2 cups.
Oh, so I'm not putting in the 2 cups of water.
When we get to that point, we would have dissolved the consomme or the bouillon into hot water to add it in.
Ah, okay, but
That-
otherwise,
Yeah.
Got
In
it.
lieu of that, you can use your broth. Yes.
perfect, thank you.
No worries. No worries.
Lily, another question for you, we might be getting ahead, is about the green part of the scallions. I don't know if it's about how much of the scallion we should do or if it's just the quantity. So maybe answer both.
Sure. So it's 1 bunch of scallions, a whole bunch, and you know, just trim the edge, the dark green edge, just so it's not, you know, the gross part. But you basically use the entire thing. So even into the white section, and you know, obviously cut off the ends, but we use all of it. Okay. Sorry, it's taking a little bit of time to turn yellow, but once we get there, it'll be good.
Do you want to use your phone to take us inside the pot?
Good idea. I will do that. So
Let me spotlight it for you, everyone. Hold on. So you should see 2 side by side. I'm just going to feature just the pot so we can see the oil and the onions. Anna's asking a question that might stump us because we are not professional chefs. So what brand of consomme? What's the difference between consomme and bouillon flavor? So Lily, I don't know if you know that. I don't know that. But if anyone on the call, like Lily's mom, or someone else might know, we welcome you to chime in.
So this is what I use. It's from 07.
Yep.
That's what I used. It's just what my family has used, and they've used multiple flavors of it. I think they have vegetable and maybe a chicken, you know, whatever else.
The brand is Osem.
Yeah, but again, this is not specific to Persian cooking, this particular brand or taste.
Oh, wait, move it away from your face. Sorry, it's blocking the audio for you. You said it's not particular. Anyone, you can use whatever. This is just what your family likes.
You could use whatever you like, fine here.
Yeah.
I mean, some families might want to just use more oil and salt. That might end up being what they use to flavor it, you know, instead of using a bouillon or a, you know, broth or anything like that. So, I mean, we can talk about spices and flavor palettes as we go on, but this is my family's recipe of how they've done it, how my mom's done it. It's worked for her. Tastes good. So.
Oh, let me go back to spotlighting that so you can all see inside. Oh, I see it's getting a little like golden brown look.
Yeah, we're getting there. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer for it to get more yellow.
May I ask another question? I'm sorry. I'm cutting the recipe in half. So you called for 2 cups of lentils and 8 cups of water. So I'm putting in 1 cup of the lentils and 4 cups of water?
Yes, but we're not adding the water and the lentils yet, but yes, that would be split in half. I agree, that would be the right measurements to do it.
So I could either put with the 4 cups of water, use a bouillon cube 1 or 4 cups of the broth.
So I would, it's gonna be 4 cups of plain water. It's gonna actually be additional for the broth, but you're gonna only do 1 cup of broth if you're cutting it in half.
Great. So
Okay.
I'm not using the bouillon cube. I'm going to use 1 cup of the vegetable broth instead.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Math I can do. Cooking is second, but math I can do. All right, I think we're getting there. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take the turmeric that was in the recipe in the ingredients, and I'm going to add it to the onions. So I'm just going to sprinkle the turmeric into the onions.
And Lily, you have powdered turmeric. I know some people might want to use fresh, just depends on, your taste and availability. How much turmeric? Could you remind us?
Yes, it's a half a teaspoon for this recipe.
What I love about turmeric is that it's such an incredible spice. I feel like it's part of so many different cultures, cuisines. So we've had Indian classes, we've had lots of different cultures, Malaysian, Indonesian, others. And I feel like there's always been a turmeric component, which is pretty cool.
So this is, and thank you for pointing that out, Julia. This is one of those spices where if you like turmeric, you can feel free to add more. It is not going to change the quality of the recipe. It's really a flavor palette decision. Half a teaspoon has worked for us. I don't feel like it overpowers the dish with the ratio and the rest of the ingredients. So, but again, if someone likes turmeric, add more. If you don't like it, feel free to omit it altogether. I don't think that would cause any issue. So at this point, I'm going to, just mixed it in with the onion just so the turmeric is mixed in nicely. But I'm going to now add the garlic, the one garlic clove it's going to be pressed or smashed or, somehow, taken apart so it nicely blends in with the recipe. I use the garlic press, but I'm going to add it into the onions and give it a stir. It's not really going to be sauteed the way the onions were, just to kind of mix it in with everything else right now. So I've also pre-pressed it because once again, I didn't want to cause alarm with the way I do things in the kitchen. So that's also going in. And I'm going to lower the heat on the pot to maybe low, because the next step after this is going to be to add water to the pot. And with the sizzling oil and everything like that, we want to make sure that we're very careful and not splattering back or anything like this. I see the question about the garlic. It could be chopped, but I use the garlic press to squeeze it. So it has all it's very much more will dissolve into the recipe. But again, it's a preference thing. I would go with at least chopped is my personal opinion on that.
And it's hard to tell. What about the pot? It looks like a few sizes, like quarts.
I want to say let's give me 1 second. It is, I think it's maybe 8. The reason being that the amount of liquid alone we have is going to be significant. If I could do the mental math, I mean, it's at least 2 quarts of water, another quart of lentils. So 4 quarts would be too small, in my opinion. I believe it's either 6 quarts or 8 quarts for this pot. So with the temperature, the flame lowered and put on low now, it's not really sizzling as much as it was before. This is the part of the recipe where we're going to add the water, and it's going to be 8 cups of water if you're doing a full recipe for Marcy. I really suggest doing 1 cup slowly first with the lid in hand. Again, me not being comfortable in the kitchen, I'm ready for anything. So that will be the first step. I would slowly add the 1 cup. And then I recommend covering it just to let it settle down a little bit. And with the flame lowered, it really didn't cause too much craziness on my end with that 1 cup added, but I just wanted to be careful. With my mother watching, I need to be extremely careful with what I do right now. So once it calms down, we can add the rest of the cups to this mix. So that's my 2nd cup, and I'm going to add 6 more as we go on.
I don't know. Jess is asking for people who are using broth. What's the water versus broth change here? I would say, do you know?
This part of the recipe is water, regardless of what you're using later. The bouillon, the broth, the consommé, that is not going to be at this stage of the recipe. We will take that into account later. So this is going to be water, regardless of what your preference is for that. I hope that helps. Okay, so that is for me 8 cups of water. I've turned the heat back on high, fully to high, to let it heat up. And at this point, I'm going to take my lentils and I'm gonna rinse them. I've already done that, but I'm gonna allow for some time. You wanna rinse the lentils. Apparently they come from the earth, and sometimes there's some stuff in there we need to rinse off. I know that even back in the day, I know my family, the traditional, true real lentils, they have to even look through to make sure there were no pebbles or stones and that kind of thing. Luckily, we now have nicely packaged lentils that come from places that do a lot of that work for us. But again, with anything, please take a look, make sure that your lentils are what you want them to be. I know there were questions about what kind of lentils. Any color is fine. Truthfully, I didn't even know there were different colored lentils. The bag that I bought said green, but they look yellow, they look brown. Any kind of lentil is perfectly fine. I think if people really want to know, I think the ones that we've been using are either brown or green at home, interchangeable. But again, preference if you really have one, but any of them would be considered, traditional and totally fine to use. So I have 2 cups of my lentils. They've already been rinsed, and I'm going to add that into the water onion mixture that we have. At the same time, once we're done adding the lentils in, we're going to add in our chopped scallions. So this is why I love this recipe when my mother suggested it, is because you kind of just do everything at once and you don't have to really worry about it after you do it. So we're going to add in the scallions now as well. Again, it's 1 bunch, chopped, washed, and basically we use the whole thing except for the 2 little ends that might have the little, sprouty hair on it. So it does look like a lot, but I promise you it is completely meaningful when you add this in. So I'm gonna, again, take my camera, Julia, and just show in case people are curious. Regarding pot size, you can see that, with everything added, it kind of is starting to come up to the top. So I do recommend a larger, pot for this purpose. I'm just gonna give it a stir just to, move things around. I'm gonna check the recipe to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, and then this is a trick that my mother has taught me. You're gonna put the lid on, but not quite all the way until it boils. And then once it boils, we're gonna close the lid completely and let it simmer. So it might take a little bit of time for it to start boiling. And in the meantime, we can talk about the, the bouillon consomme conversation. So
Hold on one sec, Lily. Sorry, two quick questions for you. Different places have different scallion sizes. About how many did you put in? Like, it looked like maybe 6 to me, chopped up. Do you have a guess?
I'm gonna say it was at least 2 cups chopped scallions.
Okay.
Just basing that off of the size of the bowl that I had. 2 cups chopped.
Got it. And someone else is asking just about the time that lentils take to cook. So different lentils, depending on their color, I didn't know this, they take longer or shorter to cook. So just note for folks who are doing the recipe, you'll have to just take a little more time. How do you know if a lentil is done? It's soft? Silly question here.
So I think that is part of it. Again, cooks on the line will know better. Red is faster. That's good to know for someone like me who has no patience for this. So I will try that with red next time. But the thing that my mother shared with me as well is that individuals can choose to soak their lentils overnight to make this go faster, or to make the lentils softer, if that is, something that they prefer, their palate prefers the softer lentils. So if you decide to soak the lentils beforehand, let's say you use 2 cups to soak it, you would then take 2 cups water less. When we added the water, when I added the 8 cups, you would then use 6 instead if you used 2 cups to, pre-soak their lentils. So I hope that helps in that regard. This recipe is going to take 1 hour total once we get going with the boiling. You can let it go longer. That is something with Persian recipes. The longer they simmer, the better it will be. It is something I can't emphasize enough. So whether it's a stew, whether it's any type of like soup like this, the flavors just come out more and more. So I will let it simmer for 30 minutes. And that's really the length of what I would recommend for this. But there's nothing wrong with letting it go longer. It'll help soften the lentils more if that's what you prefer. So it's, again, a preference thing. But I love a good long simmer in my food. It really helps bring flavors out. Any other questions, Julia? Julia, are you there?
She is. I'm just handling questions for her right now. Sorry.
All good, all good. Is there anything I can answer or attempt to answer at this time?
When do we add the salt, pepper, and the red pepper flakes?
We're gonna do that a little bit closer to the end, around the time that we add the bouillon and the broth that I know people are asking about.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
When you put the lid on and it started to boil, you were on high. Do you turn the heat down then when you put the lid on?
Yes. So once it boils, then I reduce the heat to a low or like a simmer and leave the lid on. It's more so to make sure it doesn't boil over. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. While this is starting to heat up, I'm gonna boil my water, which is in addition to what we added. The water I'm gonna boil now is so that I can dissolve my consommé, my bouillon into it. And I'm gonna use 2 cups for that of hot water. So again, if you choose to use a broth, I would recommend an equivalent number of cups of your broth instead. And I don't know if there's any questions on that right now. Yes, Marcy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So
Don't be, I love it.
recipe, I'm cutting it in half, so I would only use 1 cup of the vegetable broth.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I'm gonna heat up my kettle and then I'm gonna share a book with everyone in case they are interested in that. So give me one moment.
And I'm back. Of course, you called on me right when I had to run to the bathroom.
Julia, I just wanted to make sure my connection hadn't disconnected. Sorry.
all
All
good.
good. Okay, so I have the kettle going. And so I want to share with everyone a book that my grandparents gave me nearly, I think almost exactly 20 years ago. Which I can't believe it was 20 years ago because I looked at the inscription. So this is a book they gave me, and it is written by a wonderful British woman who married into a Persian family. And she moved to Iran in 1955, according to the bio that I read in the back. And she learned how to cook many dishes. She lived there for 5 years and then moved back to England with her family. But it's in English, and that's what's so unique about this book. Let me show you the author's name, Margaret Shada. And what's great about it is I didn't grow up reading or writing Persian, so it was very unique to be able to find or be given a book that has Persian recipes that are in English. So I wanted to just share this in case it is of interest. And I cannot tell you that I've really gone through and made many of these things, but it does do a lot of explaining. It tells some stories, which I think is really great too, because it tries to share some background as to the thought, or certain vegetables or herbs that might have been used that are not as common in the Western Hemisphere. So just wanted to point that one out.
That looks like such an amazing book. I love the story behind it too.
It's pretty neat. I do need to go through it more. It'd be interesting. So I know some people had asked about, what else they can add in to this soup. So I think harvest vegetables is something that some people do, that time of year, if they want to put in some squash or yams or that kind of thing, it would go very well. One variation that we've done is not overtly, but if someone would like to put in some angel hair pasta, just not as a pasta dish itself, but just to accent the lentils. Sometimes that can be very nice to just have that in there. But I think again, someone could take this dish and really make it their own and add their own take on whatever they like to put in. So this is boiling. I'm going to lower this. So this is the part that is going to take a little while. It really is going to be a matter of letting it simmer for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And that is then going to be when, after that is when we add the bouillon or the broth or the other, soup substitute, I'll call it, into the mix. So, Julia, it's up to you. Like, should we just chat? Should I accelerate the process? I want to really make sure it's at a pace that is appropriate for everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you serve this with? Maybe a good bread or a salad, or
so
what is traditional?
So, I mean, in my family, this was like a really nice light lunch kind of a dish. It could certainly be, a precursor to an entree. But what I really love personally is I would put a scoop or a spoonful of a Greek yogurt right on top of it and have some like tortilla chips or bread or pita bread on the side. And it was just a very light kind of meal. So that's my personal family's approach to this. Is it's Greek yogurt and some sort of carbohydrate chips or bread on the side with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's what our family does. But again, I'd love to hear if there are other thoughts and what people think would go well with it. I'd love some new ideas as well. So happy to hear it.
I have a question. I when I go to get Persian food, have you ever heard of badam John? I don't know.
Yes.
It's like heaven, and also baba ganoush, which I know how to make. Those are side dishes you could have.
So I want to say that baba ganoush is more of like a regional dish, and I'm sure that it's badam John is eggplant. And so I clearly you have an eggplant interest. But yes, it is amazing the way they could take a vegetable and make it something completely innovative and wonderful. The Persian way, by the way, the Persian word or phrase for this soup is ash adas, and ash means soup and adas is lentils. So it's basically what it is. Anyway, that's really it. But I really would love recommendations on what you think would go well with this. Like maybe some, I don't know, French bread or something. Feta cheese. Sounds good.
Yeah, you can definitely incorporate some fusion into it in the sense that like bring together other cultures and cuisines. But it's so interesting for me to learn about Persian food. And I wanted to ask you, Lily, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but just could you share if you have the knowledge just a little bit about the Persian Jewish community and sort of any highlights about that community in particular and what it means to you?
I mean, there's so much to say, and there's also, how much to say in like one, brief talk. So Julia and I, when we were in college, we got to do many activities together. And one of the highlights of my time in college was hosting a Sephardi Persian night. And that was really a cultural event we had when we were in college. which was intended to highlight communities, Jewish communities of Middle Eastern and maybe even Hispanic descent, the Spanish area. So not what you would traditionally think of an Ashkenazi Jew from Europe and other parts of Europe, but the other cultures. So that was, I think, very eye-opening for myself as well, because I got to learn about other cultures within the Jewish faith that I had not experienced. But one of the things I grew up with was going to services, and you'd just hear Persian all around you. So very different type of service, even from a religious perspective, very musical in a different way. But the communities that people might be familiar with are largely based in the Los Angeles area, and also in the Great Neck, New York area. There certainly are pockets elsewhere in the United States. I am most familiar with where my family members live. Certainly in Israel as well, where I've had some family. But I think, like any other culture, there's certainly communities that hold tight to their traditions and, even their food. I think it's very much a part of it. So I don't know if that really, helps address some of the things you were thinking, Julia, but it's a unique pocket in my mind, and very different than some of our friends who we went to college with, who grew up in other Jewish communities. So it's been interesting.
I always wanted to be adopted into the Persian Jewish community for the people and the food and the fun, with all due respect to my heritage.
Very big weddings, I will tell you. I went to an engagement party a week or two ago in Los Angeles for my cousin, an engagement party that had 150 people. And that was because a lot of people couldn't make it because of COVID. So that was like a small version of an engagement party for our family. But it's lovely, I will say.
Do you have a favorite Persian restaurant in New York or in Great Neck area? Because that's where I am.
So my family grew up kosher. So we frequented Kolbeh. That was really the main one.
Yeah.
We would go.
Yes, so that one, yeah. Good.
They have one in Manhattan as well, which has been phenomenal. But in trying to find a Persian restaurant, there really aren't a lot in Manhattan where I live. There's Rava, or Rav, I don't know what the Persian pronunciation is supposed to be, but it's Ravagh, and they have several locations, and they've been phenomenal as well. So
yeah, I love Kobe. That's a great one. My nephew was actually bar mitzvahed there.
See, I've been to events there too. Yes, it is definitely a very, very small world when it comes to that kind of.
For sure.
While this is simmering, just to keep things going, and it's simmering nicely, I'm going to mix it because I don't want to let things, it gets heavy and I don't want to let the bottom burn. So I'm just going to give it a stir, and then I'm going to work on the bouillon broth situation we're talking about.
I love that now we have suggestions if anyone lives in New York or you're traveling to New York in the future, some good places. I used to live in New York with Lily and other friends, and I can vouch for both these amazing places. So I'm putting them in the chat. I miss them dearly, although I've been trying to learn how to make all the Persian foods during this time. So this is the start of a authentic experience from Lily.
So I have the hot water that I boiled. It is in excess. I need to be very clear. The ingredient list only listed the water that we added, the plain water that we added at the beginning. So we do need to have more water if you're going to dissolve bouillon or consomme or anything else. It is in addition to what the recipe list had. So I apologize for that oversight, but it is additional water beyond what the list had. I've boiled, again, 2 cups of water I've boiled for my 1 heaping tablespoon of consomme. You can do 2 cups of water for 1 bouillon cube. You could do 2 cups of broth. I would think that they're all equivalent. But again, if you're cutting the recipe in half, please cut the liquid in half as well. So I'm putting my heaping tablespoon in, and I'm going to add to it the 2 cups of hot water. And this isn't going to go quite yet, but I figured I would just take care of this now. And so this is why I was saying it's such a simple recipe, because really what we're just doing now is waiting for it to simmer. Like there's no more active chopping and assembling or anything like that going on. It really is now just a matter of simmering. It has about 14 minutes left. And at that point is going to be when we add some more ingredients in. So is there any other burning questions or concerns, or even about my career? I'm happy to answer them. But this is why, again, I chose this recipe. I thought for a beginner like myself, fewer areas where I can make egregious errors in front of an audience.
This has been amazing. I've loved learning from you, and I'm taking a peek at how others are doing in gallery view. So I thought I would just maybe check in on a few of you. I know Ben and Dina have been cooking, so I'm going to add you, and Marcy, I know you're cooking, so look out. We're going to pin you to the spotlight. Just maybe kind of share. I think Jennifer, anyone else, raise your hand. It's hard for me to see everybody, but we've got Jennifer's kitchen. Everybody's got different pots. Who else is? Oh, hold on, Elisa. Whoa, what's going on? You have amazing. You're in the soup. In literally, it's awesome. You want to unmute and narrate? Tell us how it's going over there, what it smells like, all this.
Sure, it's going fine. I thought I had some carrots that were getting kind of sad, so I threw them in there too, and that's what's happening here. I'm just wondering if you've ever made this with coconut milk and how that might work too. I'm not putting it in this one, but.
No, coconut milk is not something that is traditional to my family at all. Coconut milk. So I honestly could not tell you anything about it. Coconut's very new to me as a human being. It's very odd. Only in the last 5-10 years have I really had things with coconut in it, which is lovely. I love it. But I am not going to be able to give you any helpful information on that end.
Okay, yeah, I got into using it because I have all these squash, okay, you can see, and I've been making like squash coconut soup, and it's a squash coconut curry, and it's been coming out good, so it just makes me wonder what else it would go with.
Well, I'm gonna quickly jump in. This is very fun. Shri, are you here? Because Shri has some great recipes with coconut, and she compared the lentils to mung beans. Shri, any thoughts? I know you're a great cook.
Oh, yeah, the mung beans you need to soak first so that you don't have to cook it too long. Okay. I sometimes use mung beans for my dessert or for my main dish, for my soup, but usually I soak it overnight. So the next day it's easy to cook so fast after you soak it.
And do you think coconut could work with this dish if you use lentils? You don't have to.
I don't use coconut milk, as Lily said. For Persian cooking, I don't use coconut milk. I also make koresh, by the way, Lily.
Nice. Yeah. Where do you live? I'm coming over.
We live in Hawaii, but my husband used to be a Peace Corps volunteer in Iran.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That's how I know how to cook koresh and badam jam.
That is incredible. I am sure I would love to hear your stories. That is wonderful.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Thanks, Julia.
Of course. That's so cool. Wow, Shri, I learned something new about you every class. This is so fun. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I put you on the spot. So I'm gonna, Ben and Dina's soup is simmering. It looks beautiful.
It smells good. I'm wondering if I should have added more green onions. I'm not sure.
It's
There's
steaming
no
up
wrong.
the screen.
Yeah, it looked good. Look, you could add more if you wanted to, but just based on, let me reshare my, I can reshare my pot, just how it looks. Bear in mind, it's going to cook down, and meaning the green onions are going to kind of disappear as it cooks longer and longer, but it's not going to be bad without, is my point. I think it's very hard to mess up this recipe. Yet again, yet again why my mother trusted me to make it today. Like there's very little that can happen that will make it inedible. So
That's a great.
That, you know, like I didn't want to cook anything with meat. I'm afraid to make people sick. So that's really my take on this.
Well, it's looking beautiful from your screen, from everyone else's screen. So I'll put you back on the spotlight. We had a question in the chat just about if you could talk a little bit more about what you do professionally. I think some people may have missed that at the start.
No worries. So I'm a CPA by training, which means I started out at an accounting firm. I love numbers. And I went on to work at different places and ended up at Pfizer about 7 years ago in their finance department, supporting the finance and budget for R&D vaccines. So I actually managed the $1 billion budget we had for the COVID vaccine study, which was one of the most incredible highlights of my career, working with amazing people. And about a year ago, I decided to take a shift and attempt to step away from that. So I took a role in the office of our CEO with amazing people, really just managing his day-to-day, his engagements, his briefings, and preparing him for whatever is on his agenda. It's a wonderful experience, and every day I'm grateful to be working there and with amazing people. So that's my in a nutshell. And you know, maybe one day I'll go back to playing with numbers, but for now it's been more of a chief of staff type role. So that's it in a nutshell, Julia.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It's amazing. Your story is so inspiring. It's incredible. So thank you for all the work that you all have done for the world, truly.
It's so very surreal. And you know, there's always more work to be done for patients who are in need. And that's really what everyone we work with is aiming towards. It's not just about COVID, as much as that's front and center right now. It's there's many other areas that we're hopeful to find therapies and cures for. So wonderful. Yes, the CEO is Sephardi. He is Greek. He's a Greek Jew, very proud. And he just won the Genesis Prize, which is the Nobel Prize of the Jewish world. And in June, he's going to be in Israel, actually, accepting that prize. It's an honor. Others who've won it have been Natalie Portman, Steven Spielberg. It's just his name being alongside those individuals has been itself incredible. Michael Douglas posted something about it, and I almost threw my phone across the room because I was freaking out. So it's just, again, surreal, and I don't take it for granted, and every day is just an incredible thing to do. So thanks for letting me share my story.
Oh yeah, and we must add to that, Lily and I had a fun catch-up call before to plan for this. And as part of it, we talked a little bit about the CEO of Pfizer's family story, which for those of you who aren't familiar, Lily, I'll turn it to you because you know it a bit better than I do. I just read an article.
Your article that you posted was such a great, it captured it so well. He has only recently, in the last couple of years, started speaking openly about his parents who are both Holocaust survivors. He never hid it. It was never something that he shied away from, but it just became something he felt more passionate to speak openly about. And I didn't know this, but his mother was removed from a firing squad just moments before she was, you know, heaven knows what would have happened to her. And it's just one of many moments in his history that, you know, he's reflected on, and how history could have been so different for him and his family had someone not saved her and gone out of their way. So it's just fascinating. He's spoken about it in many different forums. I think there's a link that someone has just posted. I think, Julie, you shared it.
Yeah.
It's an incredible read. I am not doing it justice by any means. It is truly something to either see him, there are recordings of him having spoken about it, either that or to see transcripts of his story, but it's amazing.
Looks like Jake is recommending what's the SH in DC?
I think that was, I think, the first venue in which he ever spoke openly about his parents' story, the Shin DC. I think it's Sephardi Heritage.
Oh my gosh. Forgive my Hebrew school failure. I was thinking it was an acronym, Shin DC. Shin is a Hebrew letter. Oh my gosh, how funny. Don't tell my Hebrew school teachers. And now Jake told us what it stands for. So Sephardic Heritage
letters. I'm happy.
in District Columbia. And the article I shared is from Investors Business Daily. And it's just like, it's chilling to read. It's beautiful. And you really, appreciate life and fortune and just the unbelievableness that his family was able to get out of Greece and survive. So
absolutely. I know we're coming up on time. So in the interest of allowing people to get back to their evenings, I'm going to get to the next step of the dish. And there isn't much after that. So I don't think that it will interrupt anyone who's following along. You might just want to wait maybe 5 or 10 minutes more if you would like to do this next step. So at this point, I'm going to add into the dish. I don't know what someone is asking if I remember, but I'm going to add into my dish the 2 cups of dissolved soup base, broth, or consomme. And yet again, I see that the pot is rising up even more. So again, a big pot is very necessary for this recipe if you're not going to cut it in half. I'm going to mix it one more time. It's still simmering. It might need to take a moment to heat back up because you just added more liquid.
I have a question. Do you have to use boiling water to mix with the consomme or bouillon? Or can you use?
Nice to see you, Deborah. I think that you should use hot, I think that the directions will even call for boiling or hot water, so that allows for the dissolving to happen. I think you'll find that it might be a lot more difficult for it to mix into the soup if it's not pre-dissolved. So hot water will allow for that to happen.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So at that point, I'm going to recover. In terms of the spices, so I will likely wait until the very end when I'm taking it off the heat to add my red pepper. Red pepper is not traditional to Persian food. I want to just be very clear. Persian food is not spicy. It is not inherently known to be spicy. It's not similar to Indian food in that way. But my family, my father in particular, added Tabasco and everything, added spiciness to everything. It's just his desire to do so. So I want to just point that out because it is not authentic to Persian food for things to be spicy. I prefer spice, so I'm going to add, just powdered cayenne pepper up to my level of taste. You can even wait and add it when it's in your bowl. You don't have to add it to the pot. It's probably the better way to do it. Same thing with any additional salt. Black pepper, if you want to add it, you can certainly add it to the pot at this point. But the spices, I think you can wait, further into the simmering to add, unless a chef on the call has a different piece of advice. That's been the way that I've been shown to do it, especially with salt, for fear of over salting. We can always add it later. So with that being said, I'm going to let this simmer for another at least 30 minutes. I will personally probably let it go another hour after that, just to get it really mushy, but it's edible in 30 minutes from now. And as pointed out earlier, if one had wanted to soak the lentils overnight, it would have been ready even sooner. And once again, if you want to soak the lentils, recognize how much water you are using to soak the lentils so that you can use that much less water when you're adding your 8 cups at the very beginning. So I hope that made sense. You want your total moisture to be the same regardless of if you pre-soak or not the lentils. So I think that's about it. The simmering we can do without an audience. So I certainly want to be respectful of people's time this evening and not have you watch a boiling pot. But if there's any other questions or comments, I'd love to hear them or take them, Julia.
Yeah, this is amazing. Let's see. Kathy has a question for you. If you soak, do you drain them? Yes. Before starting the soup? You drain the water from the lentils?
So I would not, because I would just be conscious of how much water I used to soak them and use that much. So if you're using 2 cups of water to soak your lentils, I would just add that straight to the pot and only add 6 cups of water as part of your recipe. I hope that makes sense. So I would measure how much water you are using to soak the lentils, so you don't need to use that much water when you're adding water later on. Is that helpful, Julia?
Yeah, hopefully you answered Kathy's question. So cool.
I did have another question. I just tasted mine and my lentils are getting really soft and nice. But it's a tad bland, and I'm just wondering about curry or cumin or something or another bouillon cube, something to just make it a little more savory.
So I love saltiness. So my personal, not that it's relevant in your household, is maybe more bouillon or consommé. Again, any of those things you mentioned would not be wrong, right? You can make it your own with a curry or a cumin. Those weren't traditional. We had some curry rices we did once in a while, but they weren't traditional spices in our flavor palette at home. But again, it's not wrong. Make it your own. It would certainly be delicious. It would certainly be delicious with the lentil soup. I've had lentil soups, in Indian restaurants that had curry bases or had, cumin as part of it. So do as you will. I might add more salt depending on how this comes out. I will add my red pepper. And that's why I say it's very simple, because that's really it. It's not a complex recipe requiring movement. So make it your own is my best advice. Of course.
I think we can take one more question. Anybody else need advice or curious about something? All right. I'm scanning the virtual room. Well, thank you, Lily. I think we all should give you a virtual round of applause. Feel free to unmute if anybody wants to. You can also show your emoji appreciation with hearts and party horns and claps. So I'm seeing a lot of that. Oh, I love it.
That was wonderful.
Yes, Lily, this is so great. If people want to write a little thank you note in the chat, we can show our extra appreciation. So thanks, Jess and Kathy and Helene.
I mean, again, this was one of my newer things that I've done. And thank you, Julia, for encouraging me to step out of my comfort zone and try something like this. So I hope that it was meaningful or at least interesting for some. And thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh my gosh, this was beyond fascinating. Amazing. Thank you, Lily. We really appreciate it. And I'm just going to give a couple of wrap-up announcements for everyone. So thank you to the over 50 people who joined us tonight. This was great to be with you, friends of Lily and new friends of Lily and fans of you and Persian cooking. We host our classes every couple of weeks. So February is a pretty packed month. Want to invite everyone next Monday for Valentine's Day for a special dish with Julianne, who's a pastry student. And she's going to teach us an incredible Mexican rice pudding dish. Just a point of clarity, in the original invite, I had listed it as cake because I misunderstood. So apologies. Either way, it will be delicious and sweet and a lovely time to spend together on Valentine's Day. Then I also want to invite you on Sunday, February 20th to join us at National Muffin Day. It's the 8th annual celebration of a philanthropic food holiday that my friend and I created. And it will be the one and only class that I teach a year. I taught one last year, so you're all invited. It's a holiday that we invented to raise awareness around hunger and homelessness, using the muffin as a symbol of kindness and caring for your community. So all the details will be sent to you in the follow-up email. Then we have more exciting classes happening in March, but I'll stop there. And just to remind everyone that all of our classes are volunteer-led. So if you want to teach, just like Lily did, we'd love to have you. So please just reply to the email. Let us know your favorite family dish or maybe one you've created. We'd love to have you. I think I covered all the final announcements. If there's anything else I have forgotten, you'll get a recording within 48 hours so you can have a memory of our time together. And I think that's it. So thank you all so much. This was a really lovely evening for some, morning for others, afternoon for others. Don't forget to tag us. That's what I wanted to say. So if you make the soup, take pictures. Marcy, you always do an amazing job at this. Send it to us or tag us on Instagram or Facebook or whatever your favorite social network is. And we would love to see it and celebrate it. And oh my gosh, Elisa, your kitty is waving at us. So I'm just gonna add this adorable scene right now. Who's your kitty? What is her name or his name? I love animals, everyone. Let's see, you're on mute. So I'm sorry, I'm making you unmute as we wrap up.
That's Pebbles. She's my
Pebbles.
sous chef.
Oh my gosh, wait, bring Pebbles back so we can all wave at Pebbles.
Chef, here you go.
Oh, Pebbles. You
Very
are so
tolerant.
cute. Oh my
very
gosh.
tolerant sous chef.
Yes, look at this. Wow, I am so impressed. I love it. Thank you for introducing us to Pebbles. We welcome dogs and cats and birds and bunnies and whoever else wants to cook with us. So with that, everyone have a great evening, afternoon, day. And I'm going to stop recording. So if anyone has off the record questions, you can ask them at that time. So see you all. Bye.
Bye. That was great.
Thank you.